Overlord is a classic isekai anime where the main character gets transported in another world where magic exists. The anime starts in the RPG game named Yggdrasil, that the main character played a lot. And I mean a lot, a massive weeb. More than you. He is the guild leader of one of the biggest guilds of the game, but that title is useless now, because the game is on its last day. Because Yggdrasil is very dear to him, he decides to stay on until the server stops. However, unlike when the game was popular, he will have to spend that time alone, as every one of his guild members are spending their time with their family or at work. But not Momonga. Momonga got no time for family, he has to game. Momonga spent his last moments on the game wandering around the Heinz Old Gone Guild headquarters, reminiscing about the good moments he had with his friends in the guild and basking in the former glory of the guild. Before going to sleep on his throne, Momonga gathers some of the most powerful NPC of the guild and put them in the throne room. He also changes the configuration of the NPC named Albedo to make her, and I quote, madly in love with Momonga. But since it's just an NPC of a game that is about to close, this shouldn't have any long-term consequences, right? Right? Well, even if you never saw Overlord, you can guess that it will. Momonga fell asleep before the end of the game. When he woke up, he was still in the game, and he couldn't log out. He discovered that what was formerly a game became reality in a very manly manner. He then sent Sebas, the butler that leads the group of battle maids named Pleiades, outside to scout the region around the Nazarick tomb they are in. He then gathered every floor guardian of the Nazarick tomb to the arena, to see if all the guardians, even the one he didn't create, are loyal to him. Here we meet pretty much all of the important characters of the first season, and every time we meet a somewhat important character, I'm going to take the time to name them. You have the dark elf Aura, a girl that's dressed as a boy, and Mare, her brother, dressed as a girl. The siblings are the guardian of the arena floor. Sholtir the vampire, she and Aura hate each other just because their creators said so, and apparently they are aware that it's the only reason they hate each other. Cocytus, a giant bluish insect-like warrior, and Demiurgos, a demon in an orange suit with glasses. And finally, the leader of the Guardians, we already saw her earlier, Albedo. She wears a white dress and has dark hair. All of the former NPC think of Momonga as their absolute leader, calling him and the players who created them absolute being. And Momonga is worried about behaving like the perfect leader they think he is, when he is clearly not. Very far from it. After making sure he had the Guardians' loyalty, he informed them that the tomb of Nazarick has been transported into another world. The meeting finishes after Momonga orders Mare to hide the tomb with magic. When Momonga leaves the arena, we see a scene where all the Guardians speak with each other. We learn that from their point of view, all of the creators, the absolute being as they call them, left them, and Momonga is the only one that stayed with them. And the Guardians are ready to do anything for Momonga if he stays with them. They are also extremely worried he may leave like the other Supreme Being. We also see that Albedo is indeed madly in love with Momonga, up to a worrying point, poor Momonga. But Sholtir also is, and during the first season, even up until the third, she will fight with Albedo. Not in a story-relevant kind of way, but she will fight with her. On the next scene, we see Momonga putting on a black armor that, spoiler alert, we are going to see a lot. Then he tries to sneak out of the Great Tomb alone to see the surrounding. In the end, Demiurgos goes with him. While really high in the sky, because yes, of course he can fly, what did you expect? While in the sky, Momonga says out loud that world conquest might be an interesting idea, but in his head refutes it, and devises a plan to spread the name of the guild Ainz All Gone, so that maybe other players of Yggdrasil that might have gotten transported with him hear it. And of course, Demiurgos only hears the world conquest part. Jeez, I wonder what consequences that could have. They get back down. Momonga decides to give a teleportation ring to Mari that he sees camouflaging the tomb. Momonga sees the ring as just a tool. The Guardian sees this as an enormous reward, because only the Supreme Being used to have that. The next move for Nazarick, searching the surrounding of Nazarick. While using an artifact to see the surrounding, Momonga sees a human village being attacked and citizens being killed. In that moment, Momonga notices that becoming his character, an undead, made him indifferent to that. Therefore, since he has no interest in saving the people of the village, he decides to do nothing. But then, after remembering one of his friends, a guy named Touch Me, that was a typical good guy that helped people in need, he decides to act and use the opportunity to test his power in battle. He gets to the village and kills a knight that was about to kill Enli and her little sister Nemu. They will become somewhat important characters in the future. Here Momonga notices that he's truly not human anymore, as he just killed someone without feeling anything. Also, Albedo followed him. It's not important, but I just thought she looked cool in that armor. Before going to save the other humans, Momonga hides the fact that he is an undead. And he'll do that every time he meets a human he does not want to kill. Also, he starts calling himself Ainz All Gone, so that the name of the guild starts spreading. I'll just call him Ainz for short. He obviously overpowered the knights, like you overpower a toddler. He lets some of them leave so that they spread his name. After saving the villagers, he gets as many informations about the world out of them as he can. He also makes them believe he's a powerful mage coming out of isolation. He learns that Nazarick is located in the kingdom of Re-Estes, that the Baharlus Empire is their neighbors, and that the Empire and the Kingdom are at war. That there is a city called Irantel close to them, that also play a major role in the conflict for the Kingdom. Then south of the Kingdom and Empire is the slain theocracy. Ainz decides to use this good deed, the fact he saved the villagers, just in case a player meets up with them to make himself look good. Just before he leaves, another group of knights come to the village, this time not to kill. There we are introduced to another important character, Gazef Stronov, captain of the royal army of Re-Estes. It appears that the knights going around killing villagers disguised as knights of the Empire has been a trap set up by the slain theocracy to kill Gazef Stronov. Why? No idea. When Ainz and Gazef realize the trap, the mage summons monsters that existed in Yggdrasil. When asked by Gazef, Ainz refuses to help get rid of the trap. But before Gazef leaves to fight the mage, Ainz gives him a little totem. Gee, I wonder if that will play a role. Gazef and his soldier left the village to fight the magicians and monsters, and give time for the villagers and Ainz to run away. At first, the fight seems pretty even, but whenever a monster died, the mage just had to summon a new one, therefore using up Gazef's stamina. When Gazef was about to be killed by the plethora of angels, Gazef and Ainz exchanged their places, thanks to the little totem. Gazef found himself confused in the house with all the villagers, Ainz fighting the summoned angels. The leader of the theocracy's magicians was also confused, but made the mistake of thinking of Heinz and Albedo as weaker than him. What an idiot. And Heinz started taunting them in a weirdly enjoyable manner, while perfectly behaving as an overlord of death. He obviously crushed them and broke their spirit, and forced them to use their greatest asset, a bigger angel. It disappointed Heinz and myself. After mercilessly killing them, he explained to Albedo why he did what he did. He used Gazev to verify the strengths of the humans of the world. When he judged it to be low enough, he took the risk to fight himself. After that, they got back to Nazarick to update the other Guardians on what happened, and ordered the Guardians to spray the name of Heinz Holgone. Some bedroom mischief with Albedo later, or at least she tried to have some. Heinz put a devious plan into action to get more information about the political situation of the Riestis kingdom. He decided he would become an adamantite adventurer, FYI highest rank adventurer, to gain the trust of people and the ability to get a lot of information. But to do that, he had to start from the lowest rank. He and Narberal Gamma, member of the Pleiades, headed to Irantel to start being adventurer. Narberal would use the false name Nabe, and Heinz would use Momon, and hide himself with an armor, the same he used when he and Demiurgos went flying. Nabe and Momon went to a really cheap inn for bronze adventurer. During this scene we have your typical moment where drunkard adventurer tries to pick on the overpowered MC and get beaten up in a spectacular fashion. When beating the drunkard, Momon sent a drunkard flying, breaking a table and the valuable potion of an adventurer. Because that adventurer came complaining, and because Momon didn't want Nabe to kill her, because she dared to speak rudely to a supreme being, Momon gave a potion from Yggdrasil to the woman. Because the potions from the New World are blue and the one she received was red, she went to the pharmacist or apothecary, whatever the name is, to appraise this red potion. She went to the renowned Bale Ale pharmacy, and there we are introduced to somewhat important character again, Lizzie Baleare and her grandson Enfilia Baleare. I apologize for the pronunciation. I don't know where to put this information, but Enfilia has a talent that allows him to use any magical object. This will be useful later. They discover that the red potion is a perfect potion that is supposed to be just a legend, and way more potent than the common blue potion from this world. The adventurer sells the red potion because people would be ready to kill her to get something that valuable. The day after, Momon and Nabe went to get their first quest. However, none of them can read the quest. To avoid revealing that they can't read, Momon, with a supreme amount of confidence, picks a random quest and informs the guild staff that he's picking that quest. When confronted by the guild staff over the fact that a bronze adventurer can't pick a mithril rank quest, Momon said, "I want it anyway," and then the task staff went, "But the rules." After the unfruitful exchange, another group of adventurers saw that and asked Momon and Nabe to join them in their quest. The adventurer group is composed of a guy named Luclus, another named Dine, Nina, a magician child, and the leader, Peter. I'm not going too much in detail with them because, well, you'll see later. The quest in question is just hunting monsters around Irantel. Momon and Nabe decides to join them. While they were about to leave the guild, Enfilia comes and gives a personal quest to Momon. Momon first refuses the quest, but because even the adventurer party had a quest which urged him to accept, he accepted. The mission is an escort mission to a forest near the Carney village, the one Heinz saved in the beginning. By the way, when I say Momon, I'm referring to Heinz but hidden under the armor. Thinking that escort missions are annoying, Boneman hires the adventurer group to do the quest with him. Because hiring a novice adventurer sounds awfully suspicious to Boneman, he asks the reason of his choice to Enfilia. Enfilia says it's because he heard that an adventurer in black armor threw another one in an inn, and the group he usually asks is not there, but that is a lie. Boneman doesn't know that, but we do, even if he is still suspicious. Before the adventurer goes to the quest, we see another scene that happened during the night in a cemetery. Here we are introduced to an old man named Kajit, that seems to be a necromancer and in a cult, and Clementine, another member of the cult, and a former member of an underground group of the slain theocracy. She ran away and stole a magical object, some sort of crown, that if successfully used would allow for the manipulation of a tremendous amount of magic. In short, they are your typical bad guys. The next day, the group and Boneman approach the forest, and during the travel, Boneman learns of the existence of a monster called the Wise King of the Forest. Apparently, he is very powerful and old and can use magic. I never know if I should put it in the summary, but Albedo is a massive Einstein. Moving on. During the travel to the forest, the guy named Luke tries to hit on Nabi. I mean, she's hot, but because at some point he insinuates that Nabi and Boneman are in a couple, she gets embarrassed and almost reveals some information about Nazarick. Shortly after, ogres and goblins attack, and Boneman and Nabi impresses everyone because of how easily they kill the monsters. Boneman is impressed with the quality of the teamwork of the adventurers and feels a bit nostalgic because he is reminded of him and his friends. During a little scene that's supposed to make us feel for the side characters a little more, we learn that Enfilia is in love with a girl in the village of Carney. Do you wonder who that girl is? Think about it. Of course you know who that is. The day after, the little group finally arrived close to the village of Carney. Enfilia, who went to the village multiple times before, noticed that a weird fence appeared on the road. While getting even closer, they noticed a group of well-armed and talking goblins guarding the fence. Those goblins were summoned by a magic item that Heinz gave to Enlich, the village girl he saved. The goblins asked them to lower their weapon, wanting to avoid a fight. Enlich recognized Enfilia and let them enter. And yes, as you guessed it, Enfilia is in love with Enlich, the girl that Heinz saved. When Enlich revealed the existence of Heinz Old Gone, the powerful magic caster that saved the village and gave her a red potion to heal her, Enfilia makes the connection between Heinz and Boneman. When he learns that Boneman and Heinz are the same person, a powerful warrior and a powerful magic caster at the same time that saved the village of the girl he loves, he decides to come clean and actually reveal that he asked for Boneman because of the red potion that he gave to a woman at the inn. A little while after, they went to the forest to do what they came to do in the first place, escort Enfilia while he picks medicinal plants. Planning to capture the Wise King of the Forest, Heinz partied with the party for a little and headed deeper in the forest, and Aura, who followed them, was given the mission of guiding the Wise King of the Forest to Boneman and Nabi. The Wise King of the Forest fought with Boneman and lost. He had to use a really low-level spell to beat the Wise King into submission. Boneman contemplated killing him, but decided to tame him to help spread the name of Boneman the Adventurer. Enfilia is worried for Enlich since if the Wise King disappears, so as the protection of the Carney village, but Boneman reassures him and says he will help him protect the village. The mission being over, everyone got back to Irantel. The group of adventurers escorted Enfilia back to the pharmacy. Boneman and Nabi went to register the Wise King of the Forest to the guild. By the way, the Wise King of the Forest is just a big hamster with a tail. So imagine the amount of shame you would feel riding it. That's exactly what Momon felt. Poor guy. At the pharmacy, Enfilia went to see his grandmother, but instead found Clementine. Clementine came to kidnap Enfilia because of his talent to use any magic object. She wants to make Enfilia use the crown she stole to use enough magic to summon an army of undead and destroy the city. The scene cut and we went to Momon, who finished to register the Wise King of the Forest, under the name Hamusuke. Lizzie Barreale, who happened to be outside and recognized Momon, decided to present herself to learn the whereabouts of her grandson. They decided to walk with each other to the pharmacy where Enfilia and everyone is supposed to be. When stepping into the building, Momon felt a problem and jumped toward it. There he found two of the adventurers who went with him turned into zombies, and Ninya, the small child magician, tortured to death. Lizzie and Momon noticed that Enfilia has been kidnapped. The kidnappers, Clementine and Kajit, didn't bother to hide their traces, so Momon suggests to Lizzie that she should hire Momon and Nabe to save her grandson. Momon accepts to save her grandson in exchange for everything she possesses. Lizzie accepts. Momon and Nabe find themselves in a room with a map to search for Enfilia. Momon decides to search for the kidnapper by tracking the adventurer identification plates that Clementine stole from the adventurers she killed. Momon used an outrageous amount of magic scroll to get the location. He used most of the scroll to countermeasure any countermeasure by magic tracking. Then they found that the kidnappers are in the cemetery. Since Clementine and Kajit were able to use the crown thanks to the kidnapping of Enfilia, an army of undead began to appear in the cemetery and overflow. Thanks to Momon, no undead got out of the cemetery. Momon used that event to spread his name in front of the soldiers that were guarding the doors. And that worked really well. Momon began to be called the hero of darkness because of his black armor. Momon started destroying the undead army while moving toward the kidnappers. Momon finally got to the center of the cemetery and met Kajit with other cultists doing some kind of rituals, and Clementine behind them. By the way, Clementine has a bra made out of the plates of adventurers she killed. Just so I should tell you. Momon decides to go kill Clementine further away and leave Kajit and the cultist to Nabe. Nabe quickly killed the other cultist, but Kajit survived. While walking toward the spot where Clementine will die. What do you mean I spoiled the fact that she will die? Did you expect something else? While walking, she tried to enrage Momon for killing his comrade. Momon says he's just upset she killed his tool. Back to Nabe. Kajit summoned a skeletal dragon supposedly immune against magic. Nabe sent the skeletal dragon to the ground with one hit of the sword, of course. Kajit repaired the dragon and buffed him for the fight. Saying that he can't do anything to Nabe, he summons another dragon. We are coming back to Clementine and Momon. Clementine can't do anything to Momon, and Momon, since he gave himself a handicap, cannot do anything to Clementine. The only reason Momon decided to give himself a handicap was to learn more about how people of this world fight. After thinking a lot about how Clementine fight, he decides to fight a little more seriously and asks Narberal Gamma to do the same. And Nabe, no sorry, now it's Narberal because she will use a lot of magic that people of this world consider impossible. She teleports and fly and all, but toys with Kajit before killing him. She makes sure to use magic that outrank the immunity of the dragons to kill them. But humans aren't supposed to be able to use that. She kills Kajit and the dragon in one spell. Now to Clementine Momon. Momon gives his sword up and opens his arm like Jesus or something and waits for Clementine to attack. She does stab Momon in the face, but Momon uses that instant she's close enough to hug her strongly enough so that she can't leave. Clementine is surprised as to how Momon isn't dying. He takes the armor off and crushes her to death with his arms. After that, Heinz revealed that he fought her for revenge, for the death of the adventurer he had a quest with. Then he put his armor back and go save the severely injured Inferior. Now we go see during what I believe happened during what we saw earlier with Boneman. We go to Irantel to an expensive restaurant where we see Solution, member of the Pleiades, in the role of a noble and spoiled lady, and Sebas, the butler and leader of the Pleiades, in the role of the servant. Solution have a false fit of rage where she ordered to leave everyone of her servant to leave the restaurant. That was a trap set for the driver and it worked. The driver named Zach, now that his name matters actually, went to talk to thugs to steal from the rich looking lady Solution. Too bad for the thugs, Shaltir was also in there and killed them all before forcing them to give the name of one of the strongest men in the kingdom that can use abilities and techniques that weren't in Yggdrasil. Solution and Sebas went to the capital under the same cover of the noble lady and the servant to get information. Shaltir went to get one of the strongest men in the kingdom named Brain and Glass. What a name. Brain is the leader of a group of bandits, and the invasion of his lair by Shaltir made him go to fight her himself. During the fight, Brain went all out from the very beginning, using technique designed to beat Gazef as he has a rivalry going with him. But as you'd expect, that big technique did absolutely nothing to Shaltir, and Shaltir obviously didn't fight seriously. She even fought the entire fight with her pinky. Shaltir wanted Brain to show the fighting technique of this world. He did, but she didn't notice. When Brain understood he didn't have any chance, he tries to flee. To run after him, Shaltir used a technique that physically deformed her, put her in a berserker state, and make her stronger. She decimated the rest of the bandits and ran after Brain and Klaus. Brain actually got away using her secret tunnel during the time Shaltir was emptying the bandit of their blood. During that time, adventurers got to the hideout and got prepared to fight against Shaltir. She killed most of them really easily, but the last threw a Yggdrasil potion at her. It was the woman who received one from Boneman. Seeing that potion in the hand of a human calmed the berserk state of Shaltir. After hypnotizing that woman, Shaltir learned that they left someone to go back to the city in case of emergency to warn the guild. She tries to get that person, but was too late. Going around the forest, she found a strong group of adventurers that was specialized in taking care of vampires. That group used the nighttime to submit Shaltir to their will. Before it fully worked, Shaltir successfully killed the people that tried to hypnotize her, but was still left hypnotized. Since the person she was supposed to be submitted to died, she just stopped moving. Right after that happened, we see the scene where Heinz learned about it. They learned about it because there is a register of the NPC of Nazarick, and when they are controlled by someone else, the names show up in red. Heinz thinks Shaltir rebelled because she disapproved of him. She didn't. It could have been interesting for the story, but that didn't happen. The only way to undo that would be to kill Shaltir and resurrect her after. Since anything or anyone that could force Shaltir into mind control has to be powerful enough to be a threat to Nazarick, Heinz has to locate Shaltir using Divine's object. Just while he's doing that, he talks with Naberal when I mean talk. Heinz is in Nazarick and Naberal or Nabe is in the inn in Irantel. So they talk with magic. Nabe warns him that the guild master wants Boneman to participate in an emergency meeting. Oh, and because of what happened in the cemetery, Boneman is now Mithril class adventurer, and the meeting is restricted to Mithril class adventurer only. The guild master tells what happened to the adventurer that was sent after Shaltir. Obviously, he doesn't know who Shaltir is. He's just describing a powerful vampire that could only beat Shaltir. The guildmaster and other adventurers are making the hypothesis that the vampire has a link with the cult of Zuranon that attacked the cemetery. Moments denies that link, but he has to explain how he knows that. So he makes up a story about how he has been tracking that vampire for a long time, and gives it the name Honyopenyoko. What a name. Momon doesn't want to let the other adventurer get close to Shaltir, so he says his team will kill the vampire. And to make the adventurer leave him the vampire, he unveils a crystal that supposedly has a level 8 magic, which is apparently on the border of mythology. He also asks for a rank upgrade if he kills the vampire. When adventurers say they want to come, he strongly refuses them. While going to fight Shaltir, a mystery class adventurer still tries to follow Momon and then get killed by Mare, Albedo, Narbelal, and Hamesuke are in the little group. He makes everyone go back to Nazarick and go see Shaltir with Albedo. They find themselves in front of an hypnotized Shaltir that isn't moving nor talking. Heinz tries to use an item that summons the strongest level of magic to get rid of Shaltir's hypnosis. Spoiler, it fails. Fearing that it could make Shaltir attacks them, he teleports away. And we see something that in the future we will rarely see. Heinz feeling rage, even with the undead nature that makes it hard to feel strong emotions. Heinz explained to Albedo, and us by the way, that the only thing that could make the so-called supreme magic fail are world items. World items are the most powerful items that existed in the game. Heinz consequently places Nazarick in emergency states and recalls every guardian to Nazarick. To prepare for the fight, Heinz, Albedo and Yuri, by the way Yuri is a member of the Pleiades, they go to the Nazarick's treasure room. Heinz, Albedo and Yuri have to travel to the deepest part of the treasure room to get world items and other powerful weapons to fight against Shaltir. Upon getting there, they see someone that looks like Tabula Smaragdina, Albedo's creator. That turns out to be Pandora's actor, the guardian of the treasure room. Pandora's actor has been made by Heinz during a peculiar point of his life. Right now he feels shame of the weird behavior he put in his NPC. By the way, every time Heinz feels strong emotion like shame, we see a greenish aura emanating from Heinz getting rid of that emotion. Almost every time Pandora's actor speaks, we see that aura. Especially because of the weird look that Albedo and Yuri gives Pandora. Heinz and Albedo only entered the mausoleum. It's called mausoleum because while his guild members started to leave the game, the lonely Heinz made statue of his comrades with the stuff they gave him before leaving. When Heinz talks about the spot he prepared for himself, in an actually touching and emotional moment I've found, Albedo tries to make him promise to never leave them. Heinz doesn't make that promise and reveals that he didn't come here to get the world item for the fight against Shaltir, but to give them to the Guardians, and that he will be the only one to fight Shaltir, because he doesn't want his comrades' children to kill each other. I mean, I guess I can call them their children. The reason he didn't promise not to leave them is because he isn't sure if he will come back alive. He also revealed that the three reasons he does not want anyone else to fight Shaltir is 1. He isn't sure if he is good enough of a leader. 2. He thinks that's a trap and wants the Guardian on the lookout for other soldiers with the world-class items while he fights Shaltir. And 3. He plans to kill Shaltir, and Shaltir is very powerful. He doesn't want the other Guardians to get killed. Since Heinz is a massive weeb and played the game a lot, he's confident he will win. And that convinces Albedo to follow his plan too. After preparing himself, Heinz went back to where Shaltir is, followed by Mali and Aula holding world items. Heinz ordered them to stay on the lookout. After looking at it with his spell, Heinz learned that the one who put Shaltir in hypnosis isn't around. I'm pretty sure Shaltir killed him just before the mind control happened, but Heinz cannot know that. In Nazarick, Albedo gathered the rest of the Guardians to see the battle through a magic spell that showed the area. Cocytus and Demiurgos strongly disagree with letting Heinz go into the battle alone, to be the bait for the people that hypnotized Shaltir. The Guardians think Heinz is more likely to lose against Shaltir. Back to the fight. Heinz slowly walks near Shaltir, who still doesn't move and talks. Heinz casts a first support spell on himself, which was a test to see if she would attack. She didn't, because it wasn't direct hostility, so he cast a stun of support spell for a significant amount of time. While he casts magic, he takes out some weird sticks out of his inventory. One is a watch with Buku Bukucha Gamma's voice. Now is the time to start the fight, and Heinz starts with a superior magic that pretty much blows up the entire area. Shaltir and Heinz obviously survive the spell, and Shaltir becomes fully equipped and moves and talks. And that's weird, but she still recognizes Heinz as her masters, but wants to fight and kill him. Even Shaltir thinks Heinz can't win. At first, Heinz has the upper hand, because all the preparations he made. The traps he placed, there's also some bluffing coming from Heinz. Heinz knows that the Guardian sees him as the smartest, so he has to be prepared for everything. For example, he didn't place traps everywhere, but Shaltir expected him to do so, so she stepped back when she could have attacked. Or another example of Heinz being smarter is on his weaknesses. Apparently, Undead are weak to fire and light magic. When Shaltir attacked with fire, he made it look like he received no damage, but he did. And when she attacked with light magic, he feigned being really hurt, to make her believe he didn't prepare against light magic. He also used a spell to dissimulate his true MP number, so she believes he has almost no MP when he still has a lot. At some point, Heinz unleashed enormous magic that this time killed everything on the field. Shaltir survived because she used a resurrection item. After that, Shaltir thought she had an advantage because it costed him a lot of MP. He also casted a spell that made her believe he has a lower amount of HP. After revealing the tricks he used Shaltir becomes enraged and attacked him, only for Heinz to change his equipment to a full body white armor and red cape. It used to be the armor of Touch Me. Just a warning, Heinz is about to crush Shaltir. For the last part, Heinz constantly changed weapon and armor, using the one of his comrades to defeat Shaltir, using the weird stick he took out in the beginning. And then he used a supreme magic when Shaltir got close enough, using an item to use it instantly. The entire strategy of Heinz during the fight was to chip away at Shaltir's HP to finish her with a supreme magic. After the fight, Heinz returned to Nazarick, summoned everyone in the throne room, and dumped an enormous amount of gold into the floor of the throne room. Apparently in Yggdrasil, to resurrect NPCs, you used an enormous amount of gold. 500 millions for Shaltir. So they are trying to resurrect her. The gold liquefy and gather to form the body of Shaltir. Their resurrection worked. Shaltir is just confused. She doesn't know why she is naked in the throne room everyone is gathered. She doesn't remember what happened. Oh, and she also lost something important. Every Guardian starts explaining what happened and what she did. Guardians want Heinz to reprimand Shaltir, but Heinz is blaming himself for what happens. And then the last part of the last episode is mostly setting up season 2, with the lizard, Sebas in the capital and all. We also see the one responsible for Shaltir's hypnosis. Some of them survived, but as I said, the one doing the hypnosis died. Sholtir killed 2 of them and they had to go back to the slain theocracy. Then we see Lizzie and Enfilia Baleari being escorted by Nabe to the village of Carne. Member of the Pleiades, Lupus Regina Beta has been put in charge of protecting the village, and Moment the adventurer became adamantite. Then the season ends with Heinz preparing some kind of big attack. That's it for season 1. If you want a season 2 review, say so in the comments, or if you want me to review another anime for you, just say so. Thank you for watching, and subscribe.